Now, of course, we have Kerry the patrician to observe. As I say, it was quite a surprise in a way. Here we had our first quote-unquote black president appointing a billionaire white male as Secretary of State. Very, very reassuring. Well, I knew this was all coming today, so I escaped. I went to the museum. I went to the museum not knowing what I might discover. I go to the museum when things get really bad. To escape the mundane, to stroll amongst the greats, Rodin, Rembrandt, Matisse, Gauguin, among others, I escape. I forget the temporal. And I joined a docent tour today at the Legion of Honor Museum in San Francisco, and it was an exhibit from the Louvre in France, from Louis XIV to Marie Antoinette. You want to talk about elites? It doesn't get any better than Louis XIV. And so I looked at the incredible artwork that was preserved and passed down over the hundreds of years, and these were gifts that were given from one royal individual to another, and they're masterworks. They're unbelievably gorgeous, such as snuff boxes. Snuff boxes, I mean, it was amazing to be made of gold and diamonds, and royal members of the royal family gave them to other members of the royal family, gave them to foreign members of royal families. So don't think that the concept of the elites running the world began in Washington 25 years ago. No, so I walked amongst the greats. I looked at the Louis XIV to Marie Antoinette exhibition at the museum today, as I said, and I stopped upon the snuff box tour. I thought about snuff. I've never used it. Apparently, snuff was quite the rage. King Louis XIV was a devout snuffer, and so are all of his members of court. No doubt there was no French Bloomberg around in France at that time to demand a stop to this practice, or that snuff boxes be limited in size to 1-ounce boxes. Of course, if the little man himself, Bloomberg, had been in the royal court and went around screaming, "You can't take that stuff, and if you do, limit the amount of snuff that you take, for God's sakes," they just would have kicked him out and sent him back to Brooklyn. Which leads me to a question. Are museums still relevant in America? Do you ever go to a museum? Which museums do you go to, and why? I never see Obama voters in museums except on the free nights, which I try to avoid. Free nights in museums are when the drunks come for the music, usually very bad jazz, and they wander around drinking cheap wine. But during the day, I rarely see an Obama voter, especially during the day when you have to pay to get in. I'm serious about this question. I happen to still love museums. I grew up in the world of art, in that my father had a small antique store, and I remember looking at the noses and the faces and the ears and the hooves of many, many bronze horses staring down at me as I cleaned them. As I looked into the faces of these bronze horses, I used to ponder them, along with all of the cherubs and the angels and the demons that I had to clean of their patina. And so it's instilled in my blood to love fine art. Let's put it to you that way. I know I'm not supposed to. I realize as the longshoreman of radio, I'm supposed to pretend that I don't like these things, but I actually love fine art. And I'm asking you as a listener to the Savage Nation, do you ever go to a museum? Is there anyone listening to this show who wants to talk about anything other than Obama and Clinton and guns and Kerry? Because I'm not doing it. I refuse.